All right, Flannelverse, I'm ready. You're ready. We are ready. Let's break down this Vikings at Chargers Thursday night football slate for DraftKings Showdown. As usual, going position by position, quarterbacks, running backs, receivers, tight ends, defenses, kickers. I will make some lineups. I'm already running some sims right now. These are not with all the updated information, so I'll have to run them again later to make my real lineups. And of course, I'll take any questions you have as we go. While you're coming in, please do, as Dan said here, hit the like button. Would very much appreciate it. And subscribe if you're not already subscribed. Trying to get to 6,000 subscribers by the end of the NFL season and could use your support. And of course, if you're not already signed up at Run the Sims, you can use promo code Neil to get 10% off your first payment on any of their products. As I said earlier on the afternoon show with Adam, we do have more information now than we had this morning. Aaron Jones is active for this game. We'll see how much he's actually involved. Both Jared Patterson and Naheem Miller-Hines called up from the practice squad. So we've got a couple min-priced RB2/3s on the Chargers. Christian Darrisaw is active for the Vikings. Love to see that. They do not have Brian O'Neill, so that's not ideal. But we do get Christian Darrisaw active. That does help a bit on the Vikings. Joe Alt is active for the Chargers. Keandre Lambert-Smith is also inactive for the Chargers. Trey Pipkins active for the Chargers. And then one that we were not expecting, Will Dissly, is inactive. So currently the sims that I'm running right now actually have Will Dissly in at tight end. We're going to have to take him out later when we run these. Dustin, I have not made a video on how to upload sims to DraftKings. I can do that at some point. It's pretty simple. I'll actually do it on the screen. The only part you won't see is you download a spreadsheet from DraftKings, a CSV, and then you download a separate spreadsheet from Run the Sims, and you just have to copy over the lineups from the spreadsheet you get from Run the Sims into the spreadsheet you get from DraftKings, and then you upload that spreadsheet after it's changed. So it's fairly simple to do, but yeah, that is something that I can do at some point if you don't have experience with uploading lineups to DraftKings. Looks like this is gonna time out. I think probably because they're making changes as I'm running the Sims. Oh, diversifying payout. So we're getting close to this run of the Sims being done. I'm kind of like trying to wait until it's done, but should be done any second now. I'll get into other stuff. Starting with the quarterbacks, as usual, Justin Herbert is going to be fairly chalky. I'll look at what RG has him at. They've got Herbert at 13. Sorry, no, they've got him at 7% projected ownership of captain. That seems really light. Let me reset this just to see if there's maybe an error here. I believe this is lighter than I have seen on Justin Herbert. It does seem like it could be a slate where we see pretty spread out captain ownership. I'd still be pretty surprised if Herbert comes in at the 7% he's projected here. If he does, he's going to be a fantastic play. They have Herbert at 68% in the flex, so 75% total ownership going to Herbert. And that seems fine. Like Herbert's one of the few players that we know is going to put up, or I shouldn't say we know, but we can guess with some certainty is going to put up double-digit fantasy points. Really good shot at 20 plus. So Herbert, like usual, like anytime you have decent quarterbacks on a slate, Herbert very good. They are going to project really well. You're going to want them in a lot of lineups. I'm going to look at the schedule adjusted just over the last 5 games. I think at this point that's more indicative than the full season, but it's a below average matchup for quarterbacks over the past 5 games, as you see here. Just negative 0.9 neutral matchup for quarterbacks over that span. The Chargers do pass it quite a bit. I believe they are 3rd in terms of pass rate over expectation on the season. I'll pull that up here. Yep, 3rd in terms of pass rate over expectation. Over 0 in all except for week 5. They had a negative 4.6 pass rate over expectation, but generally they like to throw the ball this year. And you'd expect that to probably continue with now 3 of their top 4 running backs being out. They're probably going to continue to throw the ball quite a bit. So Justin Herbert being a big part of lineups is something that I will expect tonight. As you can see here, so at Run the Sims, they have it projected. This is more in line with what I would expect, which is Herbert 50% flex ownership, 20% captain ownership. Even with these hefty ownership numbers on Herbert, I'm getting above the field in my first run of the sim, 65% in the flex, 21% captain. So 15% over the field at flex, 1% over at captain. That all looks pretty good to me. If I have Herbert in 86% of my lineups. Yeah, he's a very strong play. He also no, he is active. Uh, Herbert runs a bit. He's not like an elite rushing quarterback, but he has rushed for 26 yards per game so far on the season. He has, I believe, spiked over 30 yards 4 different times on the season. Yeah, 4 times already on the season. He's exceeded 30 rushing yards, and he did rush for 60 yards in one of those games. So he does actually run a bit. Has some strong pass catchers, and then Joe Alt is active. So everything looking good for Herbert here, other than the matchup being like slightly negative, but in general, the volume would be there. The price is too high. He's a great quarterback. Tough to argue. And as far as stacking goes, I would like him to be stacked up, regardless of where he is in my lineup. I think you could play him at least. I think you at least in the flex. I think you could play Herbert unstacked just because he could spread the ball around to all 4 of his pass catching options, and run a little bit. So I think he's like viable in the flex unstacked. I don't think I would play him unstacked at all at captain, and usually I'd want to have multiple pass catchers when I have Herbert at captain. Wentz, nice price tag, just 9,000. But you can see here, even with lower projections, so 52% flex ownership, 11% captain ownership, I got to 45% in the flex, 4% at captain, so well below the field on Wentz. And honestly, I think I'm okay with that. Also, Wentz, if he does come in at 63% total ownership, I would want to have a slight fade position there. Tough matchup so far over the past 5 weeks. This is the 7th worst matchup for quarterbacks, and I just don't have the same faith in Wentz that I have in Herbert. It does help that he gets Christian Darrisaw back. Helps a little bit, at least. Maybe has a little bit more time, but generally, if I end up with under 50%, I am okay with being underweight. Hang on, what's up, my Minnesota brother? Shipped the Sunday Night Showdown for 51,000. Let's run it back. Love to see that. Congrats. Yeah, that's very cool. What was the Sunday night one? I forget what the game was. Is that the Niners and Niners Falcons? I think that's what the Sunday night one was. That's very cool. Congrats. So I'm probably going to end up being a little bit underweight on Wentz. You definitely want to be stacking up Wentz. If you have him in the captain spot, you want to have multiple pass catchers. You can include Aaron Jones as a pass catcher there. But yeah, I think he just doesn't run that much, averaging 14.6 rush yards per game on the season. He historically has run a bit at times, so I guess maybe he still has that in him, but he is also getting older and hasn't really shown it yet this season. So for me, Wentz, you always want to be stacking him. And if I do play him at captain, I'd want to have multiple pass catchers with him. Let's move on to running backs. Check in on chat while I'm doing this. Running backs, obviously, one of the more interesting positions. Yeah, Joe Alt is in, Christian Darrisaw in. We get some offensive linemen back for teams that have been hurting on the offensive line. Good to get some of their best back here. All right. Yes, Alt is in. Getting Patterson and no gas, and I'll get to these other positions. All right. Running backs. We'll start with the Charger side. Kimani Vidal, just 7,000. Now with Hassan Haskins out, I think the general assumption is Kimani Vidal is just going to soak up almost all the usage for the Chargers. Although, as noted, they did call up both Nyheim Hines and Jarrett Patterson from the practice squad. So it's kind of unclear what they're going to do behind Kimani Vidal. We have not had this situation yet where both Hines and Patterson were active. At least I don't believe Patterson was active in that last game. So Hines played some snaps, but didn't play a ton after Hassan Haskins got hurt. Now with the full game of Hassan Haskins being out, unclear what to really expect from the backups. We'll get into that in a second, though. Kimani Vidal will start with, should be the bell cow here. He's already had really strong usage, and I would expect that to get even better. I saw somebody asking if the Vikings run defense is a pretty bad one, and I honestly don't really think it is, but we'll get into that in a second here. Let me just pull up the past. How many games has it been? I think 3 games that we've had. Maybe just 2. I think just 2 games actually that we have had Kimani Vidal as the starter here on the Chargers. So in 2 games since Omari and Hampton went down, Kamani Vidal has played 66% of snaps. He has 27 carries, so 13 and a half carries per game, 8 targets on 44% route participation. So fairly strong usage. And that was with Hassan Haskins there, who also got 7 carries, 3 targets on 26% route participation. I think Hassan Haskins, the team trusted. I mean, clearly they started playing him before they started playing Nyheim Hines or Jarrett Patterson. So maybe there's a downgrade here for the running back situation behind Kamani Vidal. Maybe he takes on even more work than he has so far. But the workload already fairly strong, and he's only 7,000. So I think it makes sense for Vidal to get a lot of ownership here. But projecting here for 41% flex ownership, 15% captain ownership. I ended up over the field in the flex, under the field at captain. And I will probably sacrifice more Kamani Vidal as I try to get to other players that I like more. Maybe not. I think these are fine, but generally I think a little over owned because he's cheaper than the receivers on the Chargers, and I might take more shots on those receivers rather than spending all this on all my ownership on Vidal. So I actually think I'm probably going to end up a little bit lighter than I am right now as I try to get to some other plays. But tough to argue with it. He's only 7,000 as I mean, I think he's kind of a bell cow at this point. Remains to be seen. We haven't seen this exact situation. They might use the backups more than I'm anticipating. But I think the expectation is that Vidal does get most of the work. So I think I'll cut back on the 60 some percent that I'm getting right now. I think I'd be comfortable with more like 45, 50% Vidal in my lineups, but I do think he is a fairly strong play. Then you've got Nyheim Hines and Jarrett Patterson. Both are 200. Interesting to see. Run the Sims has Hines projected for 5% flex ownership, 10% captain ownership. Neither of them getting anything at captain. And with these numbers, I got to 13% Hines in the flex, none of Patterson. I'm curious if other places. Let me look at Roto Grinders because that surprised me. I guess my assumption would be that we're going to get Hines getting more ownership. So RG has it Hines 4%, Jarrett Patterson 2%. Okay. So fairly low ownership there. I'm just going to look some other places because as of this morning, the like baseline projections were very, very different across the industry. So I'm just kind of curious to see where the ownership numbers have come in now that those have all been updated. Yeah, it looks like Hines is generally just projected to not get a ton of ownership. Jarrett Patterson, not really either. And I think they're both fairly strong plays. Like these, I think I'll end up with 10% or so exposure to both Hines and Patterson. We'll see. There's obviously opportunity cost, and both are very live to be zeros. Again, I think we could just see Kamani Vidal take on more of a workload here. If it came in at these projected ownerships where Hines is 5%, Patterson is 10%, yeah, I'd love to get this looks great, 13% Hines. I would want still probably some Patterson. But I'd be a little bit surprised if he does come in at 10%. I think it's more likely that Hines gets more ownership than Patterson, which I also prefer Hines. I think as the pass catching back, the one more likely to catch a few passes. I think more likely to just take on a role here. So I think my preference is for Hines over Patterson. But I think both are, very much in play at 200. Just you don't need all that much to pay off a $200 salary, especially on a slate where we have tons of pay up options. Like it's more likely that the $200 player who scores 3 fantasy points is a player that you need on this slate. So I would say, and then you have Scott Matlock, the fullback, maybe more likely to get a random goal line carry with Hassan Haskins out. They've used Hassan Haskins at the goal line at times historically. Now that he's out, if we see Vidal doesn't get it on the first attempt, I wouldn't be surprised to see them hand it to Scott Matlock. But I'd say my order of preference would be Hines, Patterson, and then Matlock. I also think one thing that both Hines and Patterson have that Matlock does not have is awesome contingent upside. If we see anything happen to Vidal, I don't know which of them would benefit more between Hines and Patterson. I think it might actually be Patterson with more contingent upside, but if anything happened to Vidal where he was injured, I think it's just we'll see a lot more usage for Patterson and Hines. And obviously, I do expect them to throw more than they run in general. I think this is going to be, they're not going to plan on running the ball a ton. And if Vidal gets hurt, they probably just lean on the pass even more, but they're not going to just not use a running back. So I do think both, or maybe not both, but either of them might have some standalone value. It's really hard to guess what the standalone value looks like for Nyheim Hines and Jared Patterson. Again, I think it's more likely that Hines just has kind of a, hurry up offense role, or just a, third down back kind of a role where he can be used as a pass catcher here and there. So again, Hines is my preference, but either of them could have some standalone role. Maybe Jared Patterson gets some short down and distance carries. I don't know. They both could have standalone roles, but then on top of that, I think they have awesome contingent upside, and they're 200. So my preference order would be Hines followed by Patterson, followed by Matlock. But I think that I would like to get to 10%, 10 to 15% probably of both Hines and Patterson. Like minimum, I think I want 10% of each Hines and Patterson, and hope that the field doesn't play them and that they surprisingly get some work. So I'm into them as, fairly strong $200 options with, again, potentially some standalone value. Unclear what that looks like exactly, but then pretty strong contingent upside. I think they're pretty great place on a showdown slate where they're not going to get a ton of ownership. All in here says Matlock hitting pay dirt for the meme tonight. Certainly could. Yeah, and I would like to have, I think, a little bit of Matlock also. All right. Let's see. Having trouble trusting Vidal. I mean, me too, kind of. And as far as the Vikings run defense, since we got that question, I actually think they're better than people think they are. So I think they started the year kind of rough, but I think it was mostly because, JJ McCarthy wasn't like moving the ball at all. It was just three and out several times throughout the game. So I think they were just exhausted for, the first few games of the season. I think they've always been a fairly good defense, and they just needed to have some more opportunities to rest in between defensive sequences. And we've seen that a little bit more. And as you can see here, it's become a slightly below average matchup. Now still not like an awesome run defense, but a slightly above average run defense, at least in terms of schedule adjusted fantasy points allowed. It's been kind of a tough spot for running backs against the Vikings recently. And that's more in line with what I expected of the Vikings defense. So this kind of reads more real to me than what we saw early in the year, where they were kind of getting crushed on the ground. So yeah, I think that they are a slightly tough matchup, but obviously running games can still have success on them. We've seen it several times already this year. And with Carson Wentz, there's no guarantee that he's able to either. So we could just get back to the Vikings, a lot of 3 and outs. And we see, let's see, love the promo code math, Nest one to use statistics. So this is actually a reference to Mathology, my co-host on a different show. That is not the banner that I intended to use there. It's supposed to, so that's a good shout out there. I'm actually going to change that now. The banner for this one should be, you can use promo code Neil up. Gotta hang on one sec. There we go. For 10% off first payment on any payment on any Run the Sims product. There's also a link in the description if you would like to check out Run the Sims. All right. Yeah, use promo code Neil, 10% off on any Run the Sims product. So yeah, not sort of a tough spot, but not a. It's neutral. I'd say neutral matchup for running backs. They certainly could have success here, but ultimately just the $200 running backs with contingent upside and possibly some standalone value stand out to me as pretty strong plays. On the other side, we have Jordan Mason, and Aaron Jones is back. Jordan Mason, 8,600, seems a little bit too expensive given Aaron Jones' return. Like this, he's priced as though Aaron Jones is out, and I'm going to love Jordan Mason tonight. 18% projected flex ownership, 5% captain ownership. With these numbers, I'm glad to see that the Sims are giving me a lot. Also, 39% in the flex, 5% at captain. I think Jordan Mason has great upside here in this matchup. And like you kind of look at, every facet of the game. So like the running game, the passing game for each side. Chargers passing game, Justin Herbert getting a ton of ownership. Chargers running game, and all the receivers will go over getting some ownership as well. Chargers running game, Kamani Vidal getting a ton of ownership. Vikings passing game. Carson Wentz, 50% owned. Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, everybody getting ownership. The Vikings running game, though, has a great setup here against this Chargers defense that is not very good at stopping the run. And because it's sort of a murky situation with Aaron Jones, we don't have a huge sample size of Jordan Mason and Aaron Jones together. I think people are a little bit scared off of the Vikings running game. And it's kind of split as far as like Jordan Mason's kind of the pure runner, doesn't get targeted a ton. Aaron Jones mostly just a passing game back. So it's a little bit murky. Also, as Dirt McGrirt here notes, yeah, we get Darisaw back, so that's a big bonus for the Vikings running game. So if they are going to be low owned, yeah, I'm just going to lean in on the Vikings running backs, and that's going to be primarily Mason, who I think is, again, he had the better role when both were active the first couple weeks of the season. Actually, I'll pull that up. So through 2 weeks, Jordan Mason played 58% of the snaps to Aaron Jones's 45, 24 carries for Jordan Mason to 13 for Aaron Jones. Both had been targeted 4 times on 33% rep participation for Mason, 39% for Aaron Jones. And that was with like better game scripts for Aaron Jones. I think if the Vikings don't get behind, it's just going to be even more Jordan Mason. So yeah, I think Jordan Mason looks awesome again. That was tough matchup with Atlanta. They had the big comeback against the Bears, so it was just like, yeah, they ultimately won, but they were behind the entire game, so it like set up better for Aaron Jones for most of the game to get more work. And then the Falcons, who just crushed the Vikings, so they were never a great game script for Jordan Mason. If we can ever see a positive game script for Jordan Mason, I think it's going to be even a better split than we're seeing right here. Now, I don't know that this is the right spot for it because they are in Los Angeles. It's not a game that they are like necessarily going to have success in. But if they can keep it close, I think we see even a better split for Jordan Mason in general. So I'm going to love Jordan Mason if he has low ownership, and he's being projected for just 18 and 5%. That looks great to me. It would not be surprising to see the Vikings have success on the ground and continue to roll on the ground. This is I want to say it's the 12th best matchup over the past 5 weeks for running backs against the Chargers. Chargers give up a lot of explosive plays. Jordan Mason, capable of, making explosive runs. Everything looks pretty great for Jordan Mason here. It's a nice matchup, and nobody wants to play it. So with nobody playing it, I'm going to lean in on Jordan Mason and be well over the 23% the field is projected at. Similarly, though, I actually think Aaron Jones is kind of a sneaky good play. Also projected for 15% flex, 0% captain ownership. With that in the Sims, I got to 17% in the flex, 0.5% of captain. So just a little bit over the field on Aaron Jones as well. And again, in the right game script, you can see them start to lean more on Aaron Jones. But even if they don't get behind, you can see Aaron Jones worked in with Jordan Mason. Dirt McGrirt said Aaron Jones, I hope that he does not get re-injured by halftime. Yeah, I think Aaron Jones, I think he's more than just a third down back. But yeah, I think that they would use Aaron Jones on the third down unless it's like 3rd and 1 and they just want to run it. But generally, yes. So I think both are fairly strong plays. How many touches are you projecting for Mason? I mean, I didn't do the projections here, but my guess is like 13, 14, something like that. Not like a ton of touches here in a base projection, but I think that there is upside for the game script works out well for Jordan Mason. Maybe 15. I mean, that seems a little bit higher than I would expect with Aaron Jones, but certainly plausible. Maybe gets couple targets along with 13 carries, something like that. But yeah, I think Mason and Jones, and I don't think we need to go to Xavier Scott with Aaron Jones back. I think that he's just going to take a back seat there. But I think Mason and Jones, and I think you can play them together. I do think like even though they are a little bit, I think counter. What's the word I'm looking for? They do not correlate well. Counter correlative. I don't know. I still think you can play them together because there are game scripts. If it stays close, like they're just going to use both of them running different plays. They're going to use Mason more as the pure running back, Jones more through the passing game. So I think if it stays close, they can both be used quite a bit. yeah, negatively correlated is the better way to say that. Yes, I think they are somewhat negatively correlated, but I think that you can still play them together inversely. There's a lot of good ways to say it, and I just wasn't coming up with any of them. Um, I think that's all I have to say about running backs. I think we could see a lot of usage for the Vikings running backs, especially because they also have Carson Wentz at quarterback. I'm not sure that they really want to be, you know, leaning into Carson Wentz when they have two strong running back options. What is Vidal's ownership? I can, it's right here on the screen for 41% flex, 15% captain ownership. All right, let's move on to receivers. All right. Yeah, counterintuitive also. I think that is also true. Okay. I agree. Vikings defense a lot more fun with Van Ginkel. Yeah, been kind of a bummer of a season in a lot of ways for the Vikings. We can start with the Viking side, a little bit easier to break down. So we'll start there. We look at the coverage matchups, the roles, and I think we can just look at the past 3 games for the Vikings when they've had Addison back is probably the best sample to look at rather than the full season. So that would be 7, 5, and 4 with the bye in week 6. So in 3 games with Jordan Addison available, Justin Jefferson 32 targets, so just under 10 targets over 10 targets, just under 11 targets per game in the games with Jordan Addison back, 95.7% route participation. So fairly strong usage for Justin Jefferson. Jordan Addison also over 8 targets per game, 25 in 3 games. TJ Hawkinson just under 7 targets per game with 20 through 3 games. And then Jalen Naylor, 4 targets per game in that span on 58.2% route participation. So we've got, pretty clear pecking order here on the Vikings with Jordan Addison there. Justin Jefferson is elite and only getting, so he's 37% flex ownership, 17% captain ownership. This is higher than I have seen elsewhere on Justin Jefferson's ownership projection, 54%. So this is a spot where I'm like, yeah, I'm probably going to get away from Vidal a little bit because I'm not going to play 20% Justin Jefferson. Come on, this is the man. This is the best receiver in the game. Don't act. Yeah, currently I'm getting to 20% total of Justin Jefferson. It is a little bit tough because he is 11,800 and we don't have really strong pay down options, but I think this also correlates well with me wanting to play the Chargers backup running backs. I think they allow you to get to Jefferson a lot easier. So yeah, give me a ton of Justin Jefferson. If he does come in at 54%, I might still end up underweight. So as much as I love Justin Jefferson, my favorite player to watch in the NFL as a Vikings homer, I still think I probably do come in sub 54% just because we have such a strong mid range and not a ton of like super strong value, but I'll get close to it because again, I'm willing to play some of the really cheap options on this slate. So Jefferson looks great. The only issue is his price tag and the lack of like safe value, I guess. Like we have some value, but it's not particularly safe. And Justin Jefferson, as much as I love him, like no guarantee that this is not a Christian McCaffrey or Bijan Robinson, type play where it can't go wrong. So we on Sunday night we were all jamming Christian McCaffrey, Bijan Robinson. Like it was tough for it to fail because they just have such strong workloads. The running game, the passing game, regardless of game script they're involved. Justin Jefferson doesn't work quite like that. I mean, he's being targeted. Like he's getting the same targets as Christian McCaffrey basically without the running work as well. And he's been targeted by Carson Wentz, who is not super consistent. So it can fail. I probably do come in sub 50% overall on Justin Jefferson. If I get more than that, I'll take it as I try to get to more of the cheap running backs. But my expectation is that I probably will come in sub 50%. Jordan Addison looks great. He is, as you can see here, kind of the same price range as all of the Chargers receivers. Addison 7,400, Allen 7,800, McConkey 7,600, Johnson 8,000. Then you've got the 7,000 Kimani Vidal. 6,600 Aaron Jones, just a lot of players in this, like, not mid-range exactly, I guess, like high mid-range. Jordan Addison looks good. He's 7,400 projected for 31% flex ownership, 4% captain ownership. Using those numbers, I got to 14.5% Addison at flex, or sorry, in the captain, way over at captain, and just sub the field 30% in the flex. Looks great to me. I'll take a lot of Jordan Addison. Looking at the workloads, actually, let's just pull that up for the past 3 games. Actually, it's tough to do with the Chargers because I think QJ missed one of those games, and they also don't have the buy in there. But we can still just look at real quick, what does it look like? So 25 targets over that 3-game span for Addison. Just kind of want to compare. Keenan Allen 29, Lad McConkey 27, QJ 22. Oh, they all were. Maybe it was week 6 that QJ was inactive, so that actually works out well. So using the same 3-game sample, Addison kind of right there with Keenan, Lad McConkey, and QJ. Actually, a little bit surprised that I'm getting to so much more Addison than those other 3, given kind of the similar workloads there. But happy to get to a lot of Jordan Addison. Getting above the field right now. And then Jalen Naylor, again, 12 targets over the past 3 games with Jordan Addison. So four targets per game since Jordan Addison came back, projected for 12% flex ownership. I'm getting to 8% in the flex, and none at captain. I think Naylor is a fine play at 12% ownership, just not a huge priority. If I come in a little bit under the 12%, that's fine. It is worth noting that on the since Addison came back, and I pulled this up earlier, 4 red zone targets for Jalen Naylor. Leads the Vikings in or end zone targets, I should say. Leads the Vikings in end zone targets since Jordan Addison came back. 4 for Jalen Naylor over that span. Kind of insane with so many strong pass catching options on the Vikings. They just force it to Jalen Naylor, but they've continued to do it. So seems to be a thing that they're trying to do. Has not caught any of them. 0 end zone touchdowns. And by end zone touchdown means that, like, the target actually went to the end zone, like wasn't going to run it in. But four targets in the end zone over that span. And if he catches 1 target, catches 3 balls, and one of them's for a touchdown, probably pays off this $3,600 price tag. Nicknamed Speedy, he's capable of busting off a big play. We haven't actually seen it that much at the NFL level, but he is capable of busting off a big play, I think. So I think he's a fine play at 3,600. Not a huge priority. 12% ownership feels about right. As you can see here, I'm slightly below right now. I think I'd be okay being slightly underweight on Jalen Naylor, but I think he's okay. And then Adam Thielen, 2,000, just not that involved. I don't think I'm going to be playing any Adam Thielen today. I think I'll probably just cut that out if I get to any. Not that I have any real issue with it. Like, he's still capable of scoring touchdowns, but I think he probably needs more than a touchdown to pay off his $2,000 price tag. He's not going to have like a long touchdown, most likely. And there are other, cheaper plays that I like. So I probably don't get to any Adam Thielen in this one. All right. We got both of Jaret Patterson and Nyheim Hines back up. Okay. Speedy. Exactly. Yeah, and that's the thing about the Chargers backs. There's no guarantee that they do literally anything, but I would assume that some running back at some point gets a touch other than Kimani Vidal. And I think it's more likely to be Nyheim Hines, but I don't know that for sure. So I'm just going to be playing them both. But yeah, again, my preference is Nyheim Hines. Okay. And then on the other side, we have the Chargers, where, again, we've got Keenan Allen, Lad McConkey, Quentin Johnston, and then Trey Harris has been working in a bit. Darius Davis, a tiny bit also. Now and actually we can look at for the Vikings coverage grades up. It's actually a much better matchup for TJ Hawkinson. We'll get to tight ends. Slightly above average matchup for Justin Jefferson. Pretty below average just in terms of the schematic matchup. Pretty below average for Jordan Addison. Well below average for Jalen Naylor. So schematically, this grades out the best for Justin Jefferson. On the Chargers, if you're looking for like reasons to play one versus the other, as we all probably are, because it's kind of a tough one to break down, Strong coverage grade for Oronde Gadsden, pretty above average for Trey Harris, slightly above average for Keenan Allen, slightly below average for Ladd McConkey, and then a really tough matchup for Quentin Johnston if you just look at the schematic matchup angle. So there's the schematic matchup, but then you look at the schedule adjusted fantasy points allowed by the Vikings, and it is a kind of middling matchup overall for receivers against the Vikings over the past 5 weeks. But it's a strong matchup for wide receivers lined up out wide, and a particularly bad matchup for slot receivers. As far as slot receivers go, it is the fifth worst matchup. It's a fairly strong matchup for receivers lined up out wide. So ultimately, this tells me nothing. You look at the schematic matchup, terrible for QJ. You look at which receivers have done well in terms of schedule adjusted fantasy points allowed. Great for QJ. I don't know. It's tough to parse. So to me, it comes down to the ownership here. And for as far as the ownership goes, Keenan Allen is 7,800, projected for 32% flex ownership, 6% captain ownership. Ladd McConkey, 7,600, projected for 39% flex, 11% captain. QJ, 8,000, projected for 20% flex, 1% ownership. You can see the Sims are doing what I would want them to do, which is giving me a lot more of QJ than the other two here. Also, just kind of the big play receiver who can pay off without doing a ton. Whereas, Keenan Allen, Ladd McConkey more likely to dink and dunk their way there on, PPR their way to a lot of fantasy points. QJ needs, 2 receptions to get to 100 yards. So I like QJ quite a bit here if he's going to be contrarian, as he's being projected to be right now. Again, 21% total ownership. I got to 38.5% in the flex, plus 28% at captain. So well above the field on QJ as of right now. I might cut back on that a little bit. I think that's a bit hefty, but if you use these ownership projections, they're telling you just play the inverse of what the field is doing. That's exactly what the Sims did here. I still actually got to a lot of Keenan Allen, actually over the field on Keenan Allen, 36% flex, 9% captain on Keenan Allen in my run of the Sims. And then Ladd McConkey, because he's the one being projected for 50% total ownership. The Sims are saying if he's going to get that much ownership, he doesn't really separate in a meaningful way from these other receivers. You're just not going to get to a ton there. I think I would want to. I don't know that I want to make the assumption that QJ is actually going to be this much lower owned than the other two. I do think there are a number of people who got excited about QJ early on and might still go back there for QJ. But I do think it is fairly likely that it does at least break down in this order. Maybe not quite to this extent, but at least in this order where QJ is getting the least ownership. And again, if that happens, give me the guy with the splash play upside where it doesn't take that much for him to break the slate. So QJ looks awesome to me. Again, I don't know that I want, 67% exposure to QJ, but I do want probably over 50% at least, and a good amount of that at captain. So I'll probably cut back on what I have now, but like it quite a bit. Ladd, I probably want slightly more than I have now, just in case things don't quite break down this way. Ownership wise, he is the cheapest of the three, which is why he's getting the most ownership. And then Keenan Allen, love to get as much as I'm getting right now. Looks good. Finally, Trey Harris is 3,000, projected for 1% ownership. I actually got to 9% in my first run of the Sims. I don't mind that. There's been a lot of positive coach speak on Trey Harris, and if you look at the route share report, he has been kind of trending in the right direction. Up to 32.5% route participation in week 5. And then with QJ out in week 6, came all the way up to 85%. So as soon as one of the big three was out, they said, all right, Trey Harris, you're up. And then with QJ back in week 7, down to 34.4% route participation. So, not running as many routes as Jalen Naylor, but has a better quarterback throwing him the ball. A lot of positive coach speak. And then I think several outs to contingent upside. If anything happens to any of the 3 receivers in front of him, he will be quite involved. And he's not getting any ownership, whereas Naylor projected for 12%. So Trey Harris, if I get 9%, I'm totally happy to get that. Darius Davis, I got to 1.4% at 1.7% projected ownership. He's another $200 option that like theoretically could get like an end around carry for a touchdown or something and pay off that. Excuse me, $200 price tag. I think I prefer the other running backs for the massive contingent upside, or the running backs for the massive contingent upside, but Darius Davis also probably somebody to have mixed into a 150 set. I think that does it for the receivers. Move on to the tight ends here. And here, maybe I should refresh this because Will Dissly is inactive. And I actually didn't get any. So maybe the Sims did already update for, or maybe he just projects so poorly. But I kind of want to see if I'm going to get to more Tyler Conklin here. So I will rerun the Sims in a minute. But I'll just say, like, yeah, we have the news. Will Dissly inactive. So it's Oronde Gadsden as the pretty clear tight end one for the Chargers at this point. I struggle with what to do with Gadsden because he just had that huge game and he's cheaper than the receivers. So the field is going to get there in a big way. As you can see here, field projected for 36% on Gadsden. I think I probably want to be underweight there. And I guess that's what I'm getting in the Sims, 31% flex, 2% captain. I was tempted to take kind of a big stance against it just because he, I think, could get even more steam than this after the game he had last week. But this seems about right. Maybe just a little bit under the field is fine to me. I might lose some of this as I try to get to more of, stars and scrubs, but I think that he is a totally fine play. Again, if we look at the route share report for Oronde Gadsden, just been trending up every single week since he started playing in week 3, 28%, 46%, 58%, 69%, 79%, just moving up every single week in terms of route participation. And he's been paying them back for using him. He's been pretty great in the last game, absolutely dominated. So 5,800. I'd be surprised if they don't continue to use him in some capacity, give him some targets. So I think he looks okay. Again, not a huge stand I want to take at 36% ownership. I do anticipate I'll be a little bit underweight. And then with Will Dissly inactive, it does make Tyler Conklin kind of attractive as an option here. I mean, they haven't really been using either of them, but at least you remove the, who's it going to be? Even if one of them does get work, which one of them is it going to be? And last week it was neither of them. Conklin did not play a single snap on offense. He played special teams. Dissly just 1.6% route participation. So it's possible that that Conklin still doesn't really see any involvement on offense, but at least with Will Dissly out, we know if they do want to do some 2 tight end sets, or if Oronde Gadsden needs a breather and they want another tight end in there, it's going to be Tyler Conklin, and he is just 600. So I think that he's a fine showdown option in the backup tight end sense, where it's like, yeah, just kind of hope for a touchdown. At least we know Tyler Conklin is that guy at this point. Tucker Fisk. I actually got to 0.5% Tucker Fisk with a 1.9% projected ownership. Honestly, had not given any thought to Tucker Fisk. Yeah, 5%. Maybe he's actually trending in the right direction. Maybe with Will Dissly out, he's going to be looking better than I am anticipating. Up to 20.5% route participation in week 6 before going back down to 5%. So maybe with Dissly out, we do see Tucker Fisk. I don't know. I'll see what the Sims give me there. But Gadsden, like the pretty clear top tight end there, I still think he's just the classic backup tight end, hope for a touchdown play. On the other side, and in terms of schedule adjusted fantasy points allowed over the past 5 weeks, Vikings, it's been like a bottom 12 or so matchup for tight ends. So not a great one, but basically neutral for tight ends against the Vikings recently. And then you've got TJ Hawkinson. Again, a lot of positives for TJ Hawkinson. He's only 4,800. Here you can see I didn't get to much because he's being projected for 31% flex ownership, 2% captain ownership. With those numbers, I got to 9% Hawkinson in the flex and none at captain. But it's a strong schematic matchup for TJ Hawkinson. As far as the schematic coverage grade goes, plus 28.2. That's really high, really nice matchup for TJ Hawkinson against, I guess, primarily zone coverage by the Chargers. And then in terms of schedule adjusted fantasy points allowed, it is not a great matchup. Sixth worst as far as schedule adjusted fantasy points allowed over the past 5 weeks. But I'm not super concerned about. I thought there was one other positive there that now I'm blanking on. Oh, just the workload for Hawkinson since Addison returned has been fairly strong in those 3 games. Hawkinson 20 targets on 78% route participation. So I think there are some reasons to like TJ Hawkinson here, and he's just 4,800. The downside is just that ownership pretty high, 31% flex, 2% captain. Beyond Hawkinson, don't really think I need to get to Josh Oliver in this first run with 1% projected flex ownership. I got to 0.9%. I'm okay with that. If I get to a couple shares, it's okay. But he's not like, doesn't have a great role here or anything. Over the past 3 games, just 4 targets, 15.6% route participation, kind of hoping for a touchdown. And even with a touchdown at his price tag of 2,400, no guarantee it's something that you want. Ben Urosek, he even doesn't look like he's been involved at all. So I don't think we really need to worry about Ben Urosek. He would need to score a touchdown to matter. All right, let's move on to defense and the kickers. I'm going to check in on chat though. I always forget to like until I read someone in chat saying to hit the like. Good reminder. Please do like the video if you haven't already done so. I'm going to mute my mic for a second just so I can cough out whatever is in my throat. Just give me 1 second. A little bit of a frog in the throat today. Friendly bet on tonight's game, says Chargers fan fantasy guru Drew. Yeah, I'll bet you a 6-pack of beer next time we see each other. Deal. All right. Defenses and kickers. Why so down on? I'm not super down on Gadsden. He's just getting a lot of ownership, and I have concerned he's going to get even more ownership than the 36% he's getting now. But I wouldn't say that I'm super down on Gadsden. I think I'll be slightly under the field there, just because it's a lot of ownership, and kind of a tough price range with so many other players I really like around him. And I'm just not convinced that this is sustainable. The 17 targets over the past 2 weeks. Maybe I'm wrong, and he's just a better talent than I think he is. But I think with the receivers around him, it's tough for me to want to prioritize him. Let's see. Oh yeah, Zell got me in a season long this year. I'm now 6-1. Very sad. All right, I am. So first of all, kickers and defense. I guess we can look at what I'm getting so far. Chargers projected for both defenses projected for 14% flex, 1% captain. I got to 24% Chargers, 0.5% of captain, 22% Vikings, none of captain. That all looks great to me. I'm above the field there. Happy to be above the field on these defenses. Vikings have a really strong defense. Chargers are facing Carson Wentz, so that looks good. Dicker and Reichard, the kickers, 21% and 5% projected flex ownership, 1% each at captain. I got to 20% of Dicker in the flex, 8% Will Reichard, none at captain of either of them. I think I'd like a little bit. I think I want double digits probably of each, but no real issue being under the field if they're both being projected for north of 20% ownership. All right, I am going to refresh, reset, and rerun the Sims, because I'm not sure if everything is updated for Will Dissly being inactive. All right, I think everything should be now. Yep. Dissly project for 0 looks good. All right, so now I'm just going to set it up. 15,000 lineups, 15,000 field, 10,000 Sims, top heavy payout structure. I am playing 226, mostly low stakes lineups tonight. And then I'm going to hit the Sim Runner Pro button. See what comes out of that. What's up, Brandon? Good to see you. No apology necessary. TTID says finds it hard to get away from Gadsden tonight. Sean says they scheme him in. I mean, they have the past 2 weeks. I get that, but I think different games call for different plans, and they might change it up tonight. But sure, I mean, I have no issue. If you really think Gadsden is a great play tonight, I'm not telling you not to play him. If you want to play Gadsden, like I think, yeah, 17 targets over the past 2 weeks could be sustainable. Maybe they do continue. I mean, to use him to this extent. I think if he's going to get a ton of ownership, then it's like, all right, I just want to get away from that, because I also wouldn't be surprised to see like he comes back down to earth with 3 targets in a game. What's up, Dropping Dimes? Good to see you too. Plenty of time left, half an hour left to get a few sims in here. Glad to see that. Favorite captain and lower owned captain. I mean, probably depends on the ownership. So if Justin Herbert does come in at 7% captain ownership, I actually might like Justin Herbert the best. But Jordan Mason coming in at low ownership, my favorite captain overall, I would say. My favorite contrarian captain. Love JJ at captain also if he's going to be contrarian. That's not the way it's being projected at Run the Sims. I think some other people have lower ownership there. Oh, this is also a good point. People are reminding me. I forgot. It is. I remember this for the main slate, but forget for Showdown. It is in fact National Tight End Week. So maybe they do force it to Oronde Gadsden. All right. Can I play Max Brosmer? I wouldn't. I actually haven't even looked at the price tag on Max Brosner. Right? Is there another Max I'm forgetting about? If he's 6,000, I don't think you should play Max, because they're going to start with Carson Wentz. Best case scenario, you get I guess Wentz could get hurt in the first quarter. Feels a little bit thin to me, but I don't know. He's 6K. No, he's only okay. I mean, yeah, if you want to mix him in, like I actually don't hate the backup quarterback angle from the standpoint. Like if nobody else is playing it, and there are scenarios where Wentz gets hurt in the first quarter, and then you get a 6K quarterback. Well, he would have to beat out a lot of players in the same price range, and I'm actually not that confident in his odds of beating out all of the players in his price range. So I think on this slate, I don't think I would do it. But if you want to, I don't totally hate it like some people do. All right. Let's see. So first run of the Sims, I have not done anything to change. This is just using the raw data there. Top lineup here, and these are not in order of the EV as you see here. The second lineup higher EV than the first. That's because I'm using the Shady Portfolio Optimizer, which is going to give me the best portfolio of lineups that don't cannibalize each other, that lower your risk of ruin, rather than just giving me the top 150 or 226 in this case, top EV lineups. So they're not quite in the exact order of EV, but fairly close. Top lineup here is Justin Herbert, stacked up with Oronde Gadsden, Quentin Johnston, and Kimani Vidal. Also has Jordan Mason and the Chargers defense. Second lineup is Jordan Addison at captain with Carson Wentz, Justin Herbert, Justin Jefferson, Kimani Vidal, and Nyheim Hines. Actually, I think Jordan Addison also a really strong captain play. That's one that didn't immediately come to mind, but I also do love Jordan Addison at captain. This one leaves 5,000 on the table. Cool to see Nyheim Hines making it into one of the top lineups along with Kimani Vidal. It's kind of interesting. Third lineup is Justin Herbert stacked up with Keenan Allen, Kimani Vidal, Quentin Johnston, and Trey Harris. He uses the full $50,000 salary cap. just has Jordan Mason on the bringback. So my lineups, as is, loving the full-on Chargers stacks. So I'm going to have to fight against the Sims if I want to play my Vikings. Looking at player exposures at quarterback, and now we have, I don't know if these have changed, but with Herbert projected for 50% flex, 19% captain, I got to 59% Herbert in the flex, 26% at captain. So well above the field, or actually just a little bit above the field in both spots, though. Carson Wentz projected for 52% flex, 10.5% captain. I got to 46% flex, 3% captain. That seems fine. At running back, Kimani Vidal projected for 41 and 14% captain. I got to 52 and 13% of captain. Jordan Mason projected for 18 and 5% of captain. I got to 42.5 and 7.5% of captain. Love that. Aaron Jones, 15 and 0. I got to 17 and 1. Nyheim Hines, and this has Nyheim Hines projected for 5% ownership. Jared Patterson for 10. With that, I got to 15.5% Hines, 0.4% Patterson. I'm not convinced that Hines is going to be, or Patterson is going to be double the ownership of Hines. That would kind of surprise me. So I might have to adjust that, but I do like Hines the best, so I don't want to adjust it too much. Didn't get to any Scott Matlock at 1.2% projected ownership. Wide receiver, Justin Jefferson projected for 37% flex, 16% captain. I got to 24% flex, 5% captain. So better than last time, a little bit more. Addison projected for 31%, 4% of captain. I got to 26.5% and 20% at captain. So well over at captain, a little bit under in the flex. Keenan Allen projected for 32 and 6. I got to 39 and 5. Lad McConkey projected for 39, 10.5. I got to 15 and 2. QJ 20 and 5% captain. So this has changed. I think that was 1% captain before. This brings it down a bit, but still getting well over the field. 36% flex, 12% at captain. Naylor, 12% flex projected ownership. I got to 8%. That seems good. Trey Harris, 1% projected flex ownership. I got to 11%. Don't mind that. Didn't get to any Adam Thielen with a 1% projected flex ownership. Darius Davis, 1.7%. I got to 1.8%. Tight ends, I got a little bit under the field on Gadsden, projected for 32 and 3.8 at captain. I got to 29 and 3.5. Hawkinson projected for 31 and 2. I got to just 6%. I think I need more Hawkinson than that. Josh Oliver projected for 1%. I got to 1.3. Didn't get to any Tucker Fisk this run. Did get to 0.4%. Tyler Conklin. None of Ben Urosek. Defenses project for 14% and 1% of captain for both. I got to 26.5% of the Chargers, 18% of the Vikings, 1.3% Vikings captain, 1% Chargers captain. That's kind of interesting. That moved up. And then kickers, Dicker at 21 and 1% and Reichard 25 and 1% projected ownership. I got to 20% Dicker, 4% Reichard. So I'm going to be making some adjustments here. So what do I need to? I think I'm generally okay with my quarterback exposures. I think I'm going to bring down the Vidal a little bit and maybe give some more of that workload to Hines / Patterson. Happy to be well over the field on Mason. Wouldn't mind getting even a little bit more of Jones, but already over the field. Might want just a tiny bit of Matlock. I'll think about that. Would like more Justin Jefferson. So I could sacrifice some Kimani Vidal to get to Jefferson, I think. Happy with how much Addison I'm getting. Happy with how much Allen I'm getting. Think I might want to get a bit more of Lad McConkey. I did get to less of QJ in this one, so I don't actually really want to lose much of the QJ. I'll have to think about, because I'm not sure if I'm comfortable with just 17% Lad McConkey being that well below the field, but maybe I'll accept it. I'll think about that. Happy with my Naylor, my Harris, my Darius Davis. That all looks good. Need to get to more Hawkinson, I think, than the 6% I'm getting here. I'm not convinced that is he going to be what's the projected ownership elsewhere? Yeah, they RG has him at 19% projected ownership. So Run the Sims just has pretty hefty projected ownership on Hawkinson. I might move that down just a bit because I think I want more than what I'm getting now. But generally okay with these tight end numbers. All right. So moving to the inputs. Generally, I know I want more of the Vikings. Shocker that Neil, the Vikings fan, wants more of the Vikings, but I am just going to generally move the Vikings up here. So I'm going to move up the point scored from 20.5 to 21, the pace from 55.2 to 57, because I know that I want more of the passing game without sacrificing what I'm getting of the running game here. I also think, and actually mostly I just want the receivers. I actually don't even care that much to get more of Carson Wentz. I just want more of Jefferson. I think I can just get rid of the market share going to Adam Thielen. I think this is one way to just get more of the guys that I want more of here. And again, I recognize this is not the ideal way to use sims. I'm using them more like an optimizer, trying to get to the players that I want rather than letting the sims dictate to me what I should want based on the inputs. But on limited time, I do think so Hawkinson, I think, is going to be actually get lower ownership than this. Again, he's projected for less elsewhere. So I'm going to move that down to 24% projected flex ownership. I could just leave the Thielen. I think I'm going to give Jefferson a little bit more of the target share here. So I'm going to get rid of Thielen. Give some of this to Jefferson. And then normalize that. Might move the rush rate up a little bit to 45% also. Okay. We'll see what that does. On the Chargers side, I think I'm going to move some of the Kamani Vidal rush work to Jarrett Patterson and Nyheim Hines. So I'm going to smart adjust. I'm going to move Vidal down to a 62% rush rate. Give each of Patterson and Hines 7%. Oops, did not mean to give Hines 57%. Okay. Hines already getting some of the receiving work. I think the ownership numbers, I'm going to even these out, give them both 5%. QJ might come in a little bit more, Lad a little bit less. So I'm going to give QJ 23% and bring Lad down to 37, maybe 36. Normalize that. All right. I was getting a fair amount of Gads, and I didn't get to any Fisk in that last run. I think I'm okay with this. Let me try running this. It is too bad we can't get the Mason-Dixon line in Minnesota. Minnesota's running backs. I was getting to 15% in that last run, and that's about where I'd like to be, I think. Sean also plays more of Washington when they're playing. Yeah, I mean, you can just play your favorites. Just last night had Anthony Edwards win a tournament for me. So just lean in on your guys. Can happen 2 nights in a row. Lean on my Minnesota guys, and they carry me to the victory. How many carries? I have no read. If I had to, I don't do the projections. It's tough to really project, but I would guess 3 carries and a target for Hines, maybe 2 targets. But there's a wide range of outcomes there. And again, I've never done projections, so actually I could be way off on how the projections people, what numbers they'll get to, looking at props and stuff. I don't know. You got a feeling about Lad? I mean, if you got a feeling about Lad, you can play him. It is definitely possible Hines only returns punts today. That is well within the range of outcomes. They really just lean on Vidal. It also depends probably how many plays they run. If they just don't run that many plays for one reason or another, don't run that many running plays. They could just use Kimani Vidal exclusively. Maybe they have Jared Patterson as the backup running back and Hines just as the kick returner. Yeah, it's within the range of outcomes. Did he get any carries last week? Now I'm forgetting. I think Hines actually played a few offensive snaps last week. He played one offensive snap last week. Ran one route in that game. That was with Haskins playing for running 18 routes, also playing 24 snaps. So, but they did use him on offense at least. I think the Vikings can pull this off. Yeah, I think like the Vikings have strong defense. They got Darisaw back. I think so. Keep it close at least. But I think they have the ability to win this game. What's the projected score for the running backs? Not high. It's like 1 to 2 for the backup running backs for the projection. Limit one quarterback for single entry. That's a way to, I think that's fine. I have Wentz in about half of my lineups and Herbert in the majority. So like about half my lineups will be maybe slightly more than half my lineups will be one quarterback, I would guess. Went 7-0 on Thursday Night Football. Is that true? Feels like a classic Chargers letdown game. Let's hope. Let's dream. Addison, the best captain. No issue with that statement. I like Addison, a captain. Diversifying payouts. Should be a fun game. How many points does Hines need to pay off his salary? I mean, paying off your salary in Showdown isn't really a thing because it's like there are a lot of Showdown slates that the $200 zero. There have been plenty of slates where the winning lineup has gotten a zero from a player at the $200 minimum salary. But like there are going to be a lot of other players that are used at $200. So like 0.1 could be what separates Hines from others. But also like they're realistically, you're hoping to get 3 or 4 from Nyheim Hines, and you'll feel okay about that. Yeah, Van Ginkel definitely hurts the Vikings. Also hurts them as a defensive play because he's so good at creating turnovers. When is the next hack giveaway? That will be at 6,000 subscribers, and I am currently at I forget what the number is. It's in the description down there, but I think we'll get there by the end of the NFL season. That's the goal, to get to 6,000 by the end of the NFL season. At that point, I'll be doing another hack giveaway. All right, after some changes here, top lineup, I got to Justin Jefferson at captain with Carson Wentz, Jordan Addison, Jordan Mason, Kimani Vidal, Nyheim Hines. Love it. Just completely flipped the script here to get to Justin Jefferson captain. Second lineup, Justin Herbert with Keenan Allen, Kimani Vidal, Ladd McConkey, Oronde Gadsden, Will Reichard. Third lineup, Jordan Addison, Wentz, Herbert, Vidal, Chargers, QJ. Let me look at my player exposures. Quarterbacks, I'm a little bit lower on Justin Herbert now after moving up some of the Vikings, but still getting 51% of flex, 52% of captain. That looks great. 51% Wentz in the flex, 5% of captain. Cool with that. Running backs, I'm now getting to 46% Vidal at flex, 12% at captain. So slightly under at captain, slightly over at flex. Might have to move away from that even more. We'll see. Jordan Mason, I'm getting to 45% and 9% at captain, so well above the field there. Love to see that. Aaron Jones, well above the field, getting to 30% and 4% at captain. That's kind of the angle that I want to play. I still am not getting to much of Nyheim Hines or of Jared Patterson. I'm getting to less of Nyheim Hines after moving up that projected ownership. And I'd like to get to double digits of both Hines and Patterson. So I'm going to have to make some changes there. Wide receiver, I'm still not getting much Jefferson, still getting a lot of Addison. Not getting to a ton of Lad, more of QJ and Allen. Okay. I think I'm going to have to download these and then I'll try to run one more set of sims. A lot less of Gadsden now. A little bit more of Hawkinson. Wouldn't mind getting even more Hawkinson. All right. I am going to, so first of all, I'm going to download these lineups and get them in. Just in case this takes longer than I have. Okay. All right. So going to go back to the inputs. And the biggest thing that I know I need to do is going to move more of the workload from Kimani Vidal to the other running backs. So I'm going to bring him down to a 60% market share. Each of the others up to 8. And then I'm also going to move him down to a down 3% in terms of the receiving market share. I think. Do I want to do that? Yeah, I'm going to move him down to maybe just. I'm going to move him down to 9% receiving market share. Going to move up Nyheim Hines to 4%, Patterson up to 2%. And then also I'm going to give Lad just a bit more. Okay, that's going to look better, I think. And then do I want to do anything else? I mean, I'm getting to a lot of Mason and Jones already. Happy with everything except for I wasn't getting much Jefferson and still not much Hawkinson. So I'm just going to move Hawkinson down to 22% projected ownership. Still higher than he is elsewhere. And then I think Jefferson is actually, this is way higher than he's being projected elsewhere. So I'm going to move him down to a 30% projected flex and 12% captain. Yeah, I think that is reasonable. We'll try that. And then for the next run, if I have time, I'll maybe do some filters after this. I'm aware that I bully the Sims way too much. If I had more time, I might not bully them quite as much. I would not try so hard to get to the players that I want. But no, you're right. I do certainly bully the Sims too much. You should generally, Sims are different than an optimizer. An optimizer, you should be telling the optimizer, this is how I want my lineups to look. This is what I want. These are the projections I want to use. But for Sims, you should generally, if you trust the inputs, and I'm sure that they're pretty good at Run the Sims, you should usually let them tell you what you want. I do actually think, though, that the ownership projections are sometimes pretty far off than I see elsewhere. So probably what I should do is just, I mean, theoretically, what you should be doing is the only changes you should be making to the inputs are the things you disagree with. So like if I think, hey, these ownership projections on TJ Hawkinson and Justin Jefferson are way higher than everywhere else, and I think the other places are right, those are the only changes I should make, is just change the inputs on those ownership projections. And if I'm still not getting them after moving the ownership to where they should be, like that's probably the correct way to use it, which is not how I'm using it. So yeah, I think you can, like, it's okay to make changes, but like you should be making changes in order to change them to what you think is correct. Or like if I think one player is going to get more usage than he's projected for, that should be a change that I should make, rather than the way I'm using it, which is like, I want more of this guy, so I'm going to give him more usage. You should really only be giving them more usage if you believe they're going to get more usage, or you actually believe they're going to get less ownership. So yeah, you are correct. But it is also because I do a whole show, as Neil points out, on like how I'm seeing the game playing out and stuff. So because I have these opinions that I've formed, I do kind of bully them more to get to the players I like based on those. Um, let's see. Yeah, can we try to get to 100 likes? I have no idea what we're at, but would appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, and that's fair. If you disagree with the ownership that they use, which they uh they pay somebody to give them ownership projections. If you think that they are off, you think other ownerships are projections are better, then that's what you should generally be changing, rather than making all the changes that I do. I'm also a Vikings fan, so like I just want to play my guys. Let's be real. Little low tonight. Return of NBA, Dan. It's tougher. It's tougher to get people in here and then get people liking the videos. But would appreciate if people would like the video. Always very much appreciated. And of course, subscribe to the channel. In a 150 set, do you ever make like 50 lineups with a certain game script, 50 with another, 50 with another, something like that? Yeah, if I had more time, that is certainly something that I would consider doing with The Sims. I think that's very viable. Like just like change the number of points you expect the team to score, the rush rate, all of that. Yeah, totally a viable way to do things. All right, the Sims are in. Top lineup: Justin Herbert, Keenan Allen, Lad McConkey, Nyheim Hines, Quentin Johnston with Jordan Mason ringback. Second lineup: Carson Wentz captain. Now interesting with Jordan Addison, Justin Jefferson, Nyheim Hines, Justin Herbert, Oronde Gadsden. Third lineup: Jordan Addison, Carson Wentz, Justin Herbert, Justin Jefferson, Kamani Vidal, Nyheim Hines. Now let me take a look at my exposures now after making those changes. Still, I mean, still getting a lot of Justin Herbert at captain. Way more Carson Wentz now than I was getting before, which don't totally love that, but I'm not gonna fight it. Justin Jefferson. Now this is better. Now I'm still under the field, but I'm only a little bit under the field, where he's projected 32% flex, 15.5% captain. Great. Jordan Addison still getting to a ton, 31%, 27 a captain. Keenan Allen, 35 and 7 looks good. Lad McConkey, I'm still under 20% overall. Lad McConkey, generally okay with that. Still well over the field on QJ, although not as much captain now, which I don't totally love. Jalen Naylor, 13%. Trey Harris, 11%. All looks good. Running backs, still not getting much Jared Patterson. I don't love that. I'm way lower on Kamani Vidal than I was before, which I'm okay being a little bit under. I don't love that I'm this far under on Kamani Vidal, if I'm being honest, but it's all right. Jordan Mason, 41%, 6% at flex, or sorry, at captain looks great. Aaron Jones, 27%, 2% at captain looks great. Nyheim Hines, I'm up to 21%. I wouldn't mind spreading more of this to Jared Patterson, but it is what it is. I'm getting to 4% Patterson now, 0.4% Scott Matlock. Tight ends, I'm getting 27% Oronde Gadsden, none at captain, 15% Hawk, 1% Oliver, 2% Fisk, none of Conklin, none of Eurosic. Defenses, 19% Chargers, 24% Vikings, looks good. Kickers, man, not getting much Will Reichard. All right, I'm going to download these because they're at least closer to what I want. Let's see. And then I'll see if I can do a quick filter or something. I probably don't have time, but we'll see. The tough thing with the filters is like if I want more of Jared Patterson, I can't tell it like that's what I want. You can get less. You can say I want to cap at some number, but you can't say I want more of this player. So it's a little bit risky. I'll see if I actually want to. All right. So what would I want to filter? I could filter to less Wentz potentially at captain. Maybe slightly less Addison at captain. Yeah. I don't know that filtering is necessarily what I want to do here. Probably don't have time to do another, but I'm going to try anyway. So I'm going to bring Patterson's ownership down to 4%. And I'm going to bring up Reichard's projection just to 8.4. Maybe call that good. See what that gives me. Man, yeah, I'll try that. Just cap your Vidal ownership at 10, but I think that's too low as far as Vidal. I think I want more than that. Sent you a DM if you have time. I can try. All right, you sent me 2 images. Yeah. Looks good. Ooh. Wait, so who did you move away from that was expensive? Herbert. Yeah, I'd keep the Addison. Banned. Aaron, get the hell out of here. I have not been around for those 60 years. So no, it is not. That just means that I get to be here for the first Super Bowl when it happens. I was also in Boston for the first World Series or the first Red Sox win in like 80 years or whatever. And the first Patriots Super Bowl. I think I don't know if that was their first ever with Tom Brady, but so at some point I'm going to bring that to Minnesota. All right, I don't think this is gonna. I mean, I knew that this was like it would have to be a record time sim run to get all this done because they do the run the sims. It's not like other places kind of break out their sims, so it looks like it's faster. But run the sims, it's actually fairly fast for the number of things that they're doing with each time you run it. But not going to get this one done in time. Wait, Boston 2004. Oh yeah, I was there in 2004. That's right. Yes. No, I did not go to Harvard. I went to Tufts University for undergrad. Came back to Minnesota for law school after a break between undergrad and law school. All right, it is lock. It is time for lock. Good luck, everybody. As Dan says, please, if you haven't already done so, like the video, subscribe to the channel. Today's Thursday, so I'll be back. I'll do some Sims videos this weekend for the main slate. Of course, I'll be back for Sunday Night Football as well. Hope to see all of you guys around this weekend, but hopefully somebody wins some money tonight. Let's get it. And of course, Skol Vikings. Good luck tonight, everyone.